Third down and 20.
So me and Steed's dogs of the week both hit last week. My
Boom.
dog of the week was the Saints up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Steed, shout out to you because I picked against your dog of the week. You took the Finns. So we're gonna get into
Dude,
the
you
Saints
picked
now.
against. I've taken the Finns the last 2 weeks, and you picked the Rams and the Cardinals. Just keep picking
Yeah,
against them to win. If
okay.
you keep on, Dolphin fans want to hear that. If I keep on picking the Dolphins and you take the other team, the Dolphins are going to win the Super Bowl.
Should we just keep it going? Should I just keep picking against the
Yeah,
Dolphins?
like I'm so down.
I mean, I
I don't even know
technically
who
am
they
picking
play this
against the
week.
Dolphins this week, just not in the way that you'd think, I guess. But I'm gonna hype up the Dolphins. Don't worry, Dolphins fans. I'm sorry for doubting you, Brian Flores. Listen, I'll be the first one to admit I didn't watch enough tape on the Dolphins. I doubted your offense. I doubted that team, but I'll be hyping you up a little bit in the episode. Just wait. For now, I'm gonna pat myself on the back a little bit for actually getting a dog of the week right. I had a rough week last week, but the Saints were my saving grace. All right, so let me bask in
Yeah.
what little glory I have left. So yeah, Saints. Let's just rewind a little bit to last week because last week I picked the Saints in my dog of the week, but I wasn't projecting a blowout. I don't think anyone was projecting a blowout. I mean, you look at the expert panel that they had, every single
Oh
person
yeah.
picked the Bucks. And I just want to go back to what I highlighted in that week one because I was saying, listen, what are the Saints going to do defensively? Are they going to go out like they did in that last matchup and ask a lot of their coverage players to go one-on-one with guys like Chris Godwin? And now that they picked
Mhm.
up AB, are you going to go and ask your guys, hey, I'm fine with giving up this matchup one-on-one on AB, or are they going to try and confuse Brady with zone looks? And I thought it was going to be more of the latter. I thought that there was going to be a lot more zone coverage this game, but I will give Dennis Allen and this Saints defense credit. They lined up and said, hey, we're more physical than this team is. We're just going to go out there and bully them. And this is easily the Saints' best defensive performance. So, first note was that the Saints played one-on-one a lot of the game with their coverage players, and they won. Second thing, this has been the key to beating Brady every year. We saw it from the Giants in the Super Bowl way back when. We saw it from the Broncos in the AFC Championship. The key to success with beating Brady is to get pressure on him by rushing four guys. If you can get pressure on Brady when rushing four, you have a recipe for success because it gets him. He's not able to get through all of his reads. He starts getting, you're making him move around in the pocket. And if you let Brady sit back there and pick your defense apart, you're going to lose. And the Saints did an unbelievable job. Cameron Jordan and that Hendrickson guy, Hendrickson, no glove maniac out there.
Beast.
Yeah, he had a phenomenal game, especially in the second half. Tom Brady, the comeback kid, was not the only coming back he was doing was getting his butt off the ground. So that was the second
Yes.
thing. And then the third thing, yeah, you like that one? You like that?
Yeah.
And the third thing that I saw, Bucks just got out coached, man. There is no
Mhm.
excuse for having 5 rushing attempts in any NFL football game. And by the way, of those 5 rushing attempts, one was a kneel down and one was on your own 2-yard line against a 9-man box. So you had like 3 legitimate rush attempts the entire game. I don't care what is going on. I don't care how good the other team's run defense is. Unless you are shredding the other team's defense, like the Bills were against the Seahawks, you have to run the football. You have to. There's no excuse not to. The entire game, the Buccaneers were playing into the Saints' hands. The Saints were able to dictate the tempo of that football game. The few times the Buccaneers rushed the ball, it was against a stacked box, and the entire time they're throwing the ball, it's against 2 high pass coverage looks. you're not going to win against a well-coached Sean Payton football team like this. There's just no way.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into the clips, shall we? So this first clip, is this the right clip? I think it is. Is it? Oh, here we go. No, it's not the right. Oh, Lucas, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, what's up?
So here's the clip I want to show. This is the exact scenario that I was scared of in that little pregame thing. How are you going to cover these guys one-on-one? There's going to be someone one-on-one no matter what coverage you play. What's the matchup going to be, and what are you willing to give up? And coming into this game, if you asked every single football fan, you were able to get Janoris Jenkins on Antonio Brown one-on-one coverage deep, no safety help. Every single person saying, oh, Antonio Brown's smoking him. Easy. That's a great matchup. And that's what they got on this look. So this is going to be a 2nd and 8 after that little 2-yard run against a 9-man box, by the way. You're going to get, I'm pretty sure this is some sort of quads look. The Saints defense is a little more complex. So you're going to have Marshawn Lattimore locked up one-on-one against Mike Evans with some safety help to the inside. And over here, Janoris Jenkins is going to have Antonio Brown deep. No safety help. He's got him deep. Oh, Antonio Brown's right there. And Brady sees it. He launches this thing. Not only does Janoris Jenkins come up with a pass breakup, he almost got a pick. Who saw that coming? You have Antonio Brown one-on-one deep. No one, I can assure you, everyone except for the people in the Saints locker room thought that this was going to happen on Sunday night. That is ridiculous. And kudos to the Saints for trusting their guys in coverage because they had a phenomenal game plan. Here, again, one-on-one coverage. This is just man coverage. They're going to try and get Gronk in the slot over here on an out route, on just a quick little stick against Malcolm Jenkins. Malcolm Jenkins, a guy that has struggled in man coverage this season. Just beasts Gronk. There's nothing there. Nothing there. Key to winning this game, win one-on-one matchups. There's going to be one. And they decided this game, hey, we're going to bracket Mike Evans when we can. Gronk, AB, Chris Godwin, we're willing to go one-on-one. And the Saints won all night. Here's another one. 3rd and 8. Big 3rd down. Down 7-0 on your own 4-yard line. I love this coverage here by the Saints. They're going 2-man, but they have both of these safeties shifted over to the big 3 over here with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, AB. Guess what? That's leaving Gronk one-on-one with an entire half of the field to work with. Malcolm Jenkins. I mean, it wasn't clean. This is a catchable ball. Gronk definitely lets Brady down. Brady chooses the right place to throw. They won this matchup. This is a win for the Saints. Doesn't matter how close it is. This is a win. And they were doing it all night. There's the Saints. Expert trash talkers in the NFL, #1 in the league.
Yeah,
Doing what they do best. This was the story of this football game. And then let's just show you too, just the consistent pass rush that was on Brady as well. This is the first snap of the game. Here's your 1st-round pick, Tristan Wirfs, up against Cam Jordan. This is what I was scared of in the first matchup. Nothing you can do there for Brady. Godwin's got a catchable ball here. It's tight coverage, but this is what you're scared of as a Bucs fan. Just that matchup right there. And it was one-on-one, and Tristan Wirfs had a bit of a rough night. And then everything, this is everything coming together for Dennis Allen and the Saints. This is, you're down 14-0. You're the Bucs. This is a big drive to get you back in this football game. Tom Brady's feeling the pass rush. The Saints have been winning their one-on-one matchups. So now you line up 7 guys at the line of scrimmage. Who's coming? You don't have enough guys to block them. You got to decide who's coming. Where are we going to go with this football? Who's coming? What do you think's happening here? They dropping out or are they coming? Guess what? Pressure gets to Brady. You just confuse him that little bit with this look. And that was Dennis Allen's game plan coming in on these third downs. Just get Brady to hold the ball for half a second, a third of a second more, so that he makes one of these kinds of decisions, so that he doesn't see AB at the top of the screen against this kind of pseudo Tampa 2 look open, or Mike Evans down the cock. Open, possible throw. Make him throw this ball deep to Scotty Miller with a miscommunication. It's just perfectly executed game plan from the Saints. And here's the best example of their whole game plan coming together, in my opinion. Bucs are down big, I'm pretty sure, at this point. This is just the game plan, everything coming to fruition for the Saints. There isn't a huge pass rush here, but Tom Brady's feeling it. He's getting the ball out of his hands quick. It's a 3-deep zone, and he's going to Scotty Miller at the top of the screen. It's a great play by Janoris Jenkins, incomplete, push him out of bounds. But guess what? Look at this right down the seam. Mike Evans is wide open for a touchdown. Wide open. But this is what Dennis Allen wanted to do. Listen, the Bucs are going to win some of these matchups. They're too talented not to. But create that little bit of a doubt in Brady's mind in his offensive line. Create that, win those one-on-one matchups. Make him throw it to a matchup that's favorable for you. And that's what they did all night. And shout out to Dennis Allen and that Saints staff, because it was a beautiful game plan on display last weekend. And it's what led to a win. Yeah, their offense was scoring and putting up points, but it was their defense that stole the show that week.
I mean, you're right, dude. At the end of the day, the Bucs got outcoached last week, and it showed. And Brady was shell shocked all night, uncomfortable, and wasn't able to get in that groove we've seen him been able to get in the past couple weeks. And I think this is just basically saying the Saints are still the team of the South. The Bucs, you can make all these fancy moves you did, and Bucs will make the playoffs, but I don't know. They remind me of that Packers team last year, where they're good and they'll win a lot of games and they'll compete in the playoffs. But when they have to face up a team against the Saints, I just don't like the matchup there. And they can play the Saints 10 times in a row, and I think the Saints beat them 10 times in a row. I mean, we saw in week 1 the Saints didn't even play that great of a game and still controlled that game and beat them. It's just not a good matchup for the Bucs. And
Were the
if you run
Saints
the ball,
dogs week
if you
1
only run
too?
the ball 5 times a game, you're not going to be in any game.
Yeah, do you remember if the Saints were dogs week 1? I think they were, right?
No, yeah, they were, because I remember
That's
picking the Saints for
absurd,
this.
man. The fact that they were dogs, you were right. Not only does the NFC South run through the Saints, the NFC runs through the Saints. You have to beat the Saints if you want to make it to the Super Bowl generally. And I think you're right. This is a team, if you can't beat the Saints, then how are you have to get really lucky, and you got to pray that you don't face them or one of those hot NFC teams like the Niners that always pop up to be able to get to the Super Bowl. Because my God, you cannot get out coached. Now, obviously, it's not the end of the season for the Bucs. This team is tremendous talent, and it was just one of those nights where everything was going wrong for them. But at the end of the day, you cannot be a team in the playoffs where everything goes wrong for you and you get torched. When is the last time you've seen a Sean Payton team get demolished like that on both sides of the ball? It doesn't happen. And that's the standard you have to set for your team if you want to make it out of there, because the NFC is just too competitive for you to have these kinds of off days. I'm not counting the Bucs out. As a matter of fact, I think I'm taking them this week for our picks, but you can't get out coached like this in the playoffs and expect to win ball games. Welcome back, Lucas. What was your opinion on on that Saints Bucs game?
Yeah, that was pretty. I mean, honestly pretty ridiculous. The one, I mean, you guys touched on a lot of it already, but I mean, the one thing that kind of surprised me was, you know, Tom Brady. I felt like he had to check the ball down a lot, and when he was doing that, it was mostly to one of his running backs, right? If that was, either Fournette or Ronald Jones. Like it seemed like, to me, if I was trying to check the ball down, it'd be to like an Antonio Brown or a Chris Godwin. Um, I like Gronk wasn't even that involved in the game in terms of the passing game. I think he only had one catch. So that was one thing that to me was really puzzling and stood out.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad that you brought up Gronk just because it felt like that game, the Saints kind of knew what Gronk is and the Buccaneers didn't because the entire game they were almost daring them to throw the ball to Gronk. They were willing. I mean, you saw on that one play where they gave Gronk an entire half of the field in one-on-one coverage, no safety anywhere near. And they just said, "Here, throw it to him. 3rd and 8. Go ahead. Throw it to Gronk because we know he's washed." And
Yeah.
like I just think that the Buccaneers needed to make an adjustment on that. Like there was like 3 or 4 third downs that he was targeted and he wasn't able to come up with a catch. If I were the Buccaneers, I think that I would have liked to, if I were a Buccaneers fan, I would have liked to see a little more like 7-man protections on a lot of these deep concepts just because you were asking your tackles both to go one-on-one the entire game against Hendrickson and against Cameron Jordan, and they were winning. Brady was feeling the pressure. And then the obvious, actually run the ball. Like, try at least to run the ball, once, maybe twice. 5 rushing attempts? It's ridiculous. Like, how many too high safety looks do you have to see where you just don't run the ball before you realize, hey, maybe this whole passing every down thing isn't a viable way to win football games. I don't care if you're down 21-14 nothing. It doesn't matter. There's too much football game left to just abandon the run game like that. In the NFL, we've seen every single year when you look at the top passing football teams, it's like the Falcons, the Cowboys, and all these non-playoff teams, the Lions. And then when you look at the teams that run the ball the best, it's all the playoff teams. Oh, the Ravens and whatnot. Like how many hints does there need to be? Running the football well wins football games. Passing the football well, you can come back, but it is not the surefire way to win football games by passing every down.
Yeah,
Infuriated.
that's a good point. And I think like the Bucks, like especially like the lack of running, it might have been a result of just how shell shocked they were. Like it seemed like from the first series they got like it was just it felt like the game was over already. They didn't make the right adjustments, and it like I think it just got in their head. And I, that's what has really bothered me about the Buccaneers all year because like I get like they have all this talent and Brady and all this, but I just don't see what everyone else sees as them like as a Super Bowl favorite. I see them maybe winning one playoff game, but at the end of the day, dude, I do not see this team going much farther, and especially if they got to play the Saints in the playoffs because this is going to happen again, unless they get someone to do their dirty work for them, like the Vikings did last year by beating the Saints. But dude, I don't know. Like, I just still think this team's very fraud.
People are probably still really high off of that Packers game. And even so, like, yes, they looked good against the Packers, but there's not very many games where you get an Aaron Rodgers that throws practically 2 pick sixes. It was one, but one of the other interception was returned to the 1 yard line. Like if that doesn't happen, I'm really curious to see how that game unfolds. Obviously, the Bucks and Brady are going to come back from this. We're probably not going to see the Bucks have this bad of a football game for the rest of the season. And I don't want this Bucks slander to be like, oh well, the Bucks, they're out of it. They're screwed. They're not going to win the Super Bowl. They're not even like they obviously still have a chance to win the Super Bowl, and they're probably still going to make the playoffs. But just the fact that the game can get so away from them with just the smallest amount of adversity, like just going down 14-0 was such a large obstacle for them to overcome, and they just completely, the legs were just out under them from that. Like, you're gonna have to be able to come back from stuff like that. Just look at the Chiefs in the playoffs last year. How many leads or deficits did they have to come back from in every playoff game to go out there and win the Super Bowl? Like, this Buccaneers team may have to do a similar thing, and they have the comeback kid Tom Brady at the helm, but like, is Bruce Arians equipped to do that? I'm actually curious. Who do you guys have most of the blame on for that Buccaneers performance?
I can blame Brady, but I think I put more of the blame on it. Bruce, man, like, dude, I don't know. I think you got to blame the whole team as a whole, though. Also, like, that was just a terrible performance, especially like you getting hyped up and everything coming in the game, then you show it like that. And it just, to me, I blame the head coaching more on a bad loss like that because you did not make the adjustments you needed to make. At the end of the day, you know, if you're down 21 nothing, 14 nothing, the game's still not lost. Stick to your roots, run the ball before net, run the ball with Ronald Jones, try to get something moving, take some clock off, let your defense rest, and then try to make it a game. And at the end of the day, they didn't do that.
Lucas, who do you blame the most for this loss, or like the way they performed?
Yeah, I mean, the blame falls on pretty much everyone. To name someone that you guys haven't said yet, I think, Byron Leftwich, the offensive coordinator, um, I just think they didn't really do a good job play calling. I mean, we touched on this right before, but um, just running the ball 5 times, it's hard when you're down 21-0, like before you even blink. But you can't completely rely on the pass game, especially when Tom Brady just doesn't have it that night. And I mean, I'll say again, like, I get there's a lot of mouths to feed in Tampa Bay's offense, and they have a lot of star talent, but it still feels like they don't utilize, all their elite players they have effectively. I mean, I'm trying to think of, it wasn't this game, but in the Giants game, like, who is that wide receiver that Tampa Bay was throwing the ball to? Like, oh yeah, Jaden Mickens. Like, they were just feeding Jaden Mickens all night against the Giants, and it made no sense. But yeah, I think I feel like the Buccaneers just kind of have to find better ways to get the most out of their star players, because they definitely have the tools to be an insane offense.
Yeah, I like that what you were saying about how they're using their players, because the one guy that I think not is free of blame, but I think one guy that you really can't put too much on is Mike Evans. Just because we show that clip where he's wide open down the seam and Brady misses him, and just looking at all the Saints defensive plays from that game, he is the guy that if the Saints are double covering or bracket covering a player, it's Mike Evans. I think that some of the players that and people that do deserve blame, like Lucas said, Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians, I think the game plan was terrible. They didn't really have a great way to protect Brady. They were having way too many 5-man, 4-man route concepts. I think the first thing at halftime they needed to do was come up with an adjustment to protect him, to get Brady comfortable in the pocket. The second guy that I'm going to blame, Chris Godwin, man. Chris Godwin had a horrendous football game. He was dropping passes. I know he had a third down and 6 that he just blatantly dropped. All the Saints playmakers were not making a single Saints tackle miss. And then, the Bucs did also get a little bit unlucky during the game. I don't really think you could put it all on Brady, just because there was the one screen pass that was deflected right into one of the Saints D linemen's laps for an interception. And it was just overall a bad night. But I think it really starts with the staff and the game plan, because the Saints were able to dictate the tempo of that game and how that game was played the entire time. And I just think the Bucs really had no chance from the get-go. And the fact that they weren't able to overcome the slightest bit of adversity in the beginning was just a really hard pill to swallow if you're a guy that believes in this Bucs team. But I think they're a team that'll be able to turn it around. I think that it was a learning experience for their team. But at the end of the day, two brutal performances against a Saints team. This is a team you're going to have to figure out how to beat come playoff time. And when they play again, I've taken the Saints both times. I'm going to take the Saints again. This is a Bucs team. I'm not sure they have what it takes to beat this Saints team.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially because it's not going to be at home, it looks like. It's going to be on the road if you're playing them.
Yeah, unless one of those teams, NFC South teams, plays spoiler, and like beats up on the Saints, like I don't know, like the Falcons.
I mean, if there's a team to do it, it's going to be y'all.
Hey man, we're hot.